Well, strapped for cash, New York State may force residents to pay for new license plates, whether they want to or not.
And according to our next guest, this isn't the only wacky thing federal and state governments are trying to do to close deficits. He just can't understand why people sit back and take it. Joining us now, Fox Business Network's John Stossel. Wait a minute. You have a perfectly good license plate on your car. You're fine with the number or whatever the heck it's on there, and now you have to pay for a brand new one? What is this?
You don't have to. You don't have to have a car. Government gives you that choice. But yes, they want to charge you more. And I'm less bothered by that because that's a visible tax. Some people will be annoyed by that. It will remind them that these pinheads, as Bill O'Reilly calls them, are spending your money. It's the sneaky taxes where government requires businesses like the phone company to charge you for things, and you blame the phone company for your high phone bill. You're not aware it's government sucking the money away.
What other kind of sneaky taxes are they planning in order to get the money that they need?
Well, I'll just give some of the list from the sin taxes in New York State now. The gas tax is 61 cents.
Before you end with the sin tax, by the way, on alcohol, I've got a friend who works at a restaurant. He says not only do you have to pay higher sin tax now on the alcoholic beverage, you have to go back and do an inventory and pay another tax on booze that you've already bought. You have to pay an additional tax. It's like if they went into your liquor closet and said, okay, you owe more taxes on the stuff that you bought already.
And aside from the raw cost, just the energy and the wasted creativity that goes into doing all that stupid paperwork or hiring accountants to do that, who knows what if they'd cure cancer if they weren't spending their energy on that. But more of those, like if you want to smoke a pack of cigarettes in New York City, $4.25 a pack. That's about half the cost.
That's the tax.
It's the hard liquor tax in Washington State is the worst, $26 a gallon.
Ooh.
Illinois has a junk food tax of 6%. And my phone bill in New York has 7 taxes, things like the Public Safety Commission surcharge, city tax, sales tax, 9/11 surcharge, universal service charge, gross receipts surcharge, commuter transportation tax, all of which you just pay. You think it's your phone bill, but it's more government.
Well, I just stayed at a hotel in Northern California, and there were about 3 or 4 different taxes that I started looking at and thinking, what's that? Obviously, these states are trying to figure out how to deal with yawning gigantic deficits in their budgets. But what is a better way, if there is one?
Don't spend so much. As Milton Friedman said, I think it's a distraction to focus on the taxes because what really costs people is the spending. Sometimes it comes out of inflation or borrowing rather than taxes. If you reduce the spending, then none of this has to happen. And what's remarkable, I mean, I would reduce it far below what it is now. But even if you say we need all this government, it must grow at the rate of inflation. Had they done that in New York or California, they wouldn't have a problem now. New York would have a $14 billion surplus if they'd simply met the rate of inflation plus population growth over the past 10 years.
But taxes do cause disincentives to happen. That is, we have an auto rental tax in New York City that is close to 20%. And a lot of the auto rental stores and storefronts here, Avis and so forth, are closing down. They're going out of business. Don't high tax rates drive businesses away?
Sure, but just as evil is when they inflate the currency and they screw everybody.
John Stossel making us feel great about those license plates in New York. The only option, don't buy a car, right?
There you go.
I mean,
buy one and don't drive it.
Okay, but you have to have a license plate. I mean, that is a state law.
Yes, it's required.
Right,
exactly. If you're going to drive the car, you pay the state. Pay the state from morning till night.
All right. The bottom line of spending, though, is that it's never going to be lower than it is unless they're forced to. You know, politicians are always, we see that with the health care bill now. They talk about all the cuts they're going to make in Medicare, $500 billion worth of cuts. They've never been able to cut Medicare. When will politicians stop spending unless we starve them of the chance to spend by cutting taxes?
Well, then they may just spend and inflate the currency, borrow and inflate, steal it from our children.
But has there been a good example that you could draw upon where it really worked and was done properly? Less spending and figuring out ways to be much more frugal.
Yeah, well, Germany and Japan, their governments shrank after World War II because we blew them apart and they had to start over. In other words, no. It really, Thomas Jefferson said it's the natural progress of things for government to grow and liberty to yield. It's
but
what
it was a
tends to happen.
Democrat, Bill Clinton as president, who said the era of big government is over. Now, of course, he was way wrong on that. But
and he didn't mean it.
But he did work with the Republicans in Congress to pass that welfare reform bill, which lowered spending tremendously. Of course, he also had the peace dividend because the Cold War was over. But it is possible for two parties to get together in this government and lower spending. It has happened.
Welfare reform is one of the rare exceptions. But think, if you're an average congressman and you're not principled like we are, and all day you hear testimony, oh, you can't cut this. Look at the children who will suffer, and they do. 98% of the testimony is how we need more money. Very tough to resist.
John Stossel of Fox Business, good to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Will it be a